Good morning. Today is the 8th of March 2024 and I'm going to go through my trading plan and levels for today. Before we start, just a quick quirky thing to do. You may notice that your trading view and any other platform you're using are out of sync with the price, and that is just because if we look at trading view, we have the contract rollover today, and strange thing happens is trading view seems to roll over from the start of Friday, and so you can see the updated prices on there. So it's 52.42, that's the current high, whereas if we look at NinjaTrader, it's still reverting to 51.78, which is the old contract. So this is the March contract and this is the June contract. What I usually do, I stick with my current platform area, and instead of just going with the having two different prices, I kind of come down and I just select the June or the March contract. The reason I'm sticking with the March contract on NinjaTrader is because all the volume is there. Let me just flick over to my order flow screen, the second screen. Screen. I forgot to flick back, so you just missed my trade database. So this is my trade database I was just talking about. So I have a selection of all of my different types of trades I look for, reversals, I've got the news and the data strategy one, and I just take a screenshot of when I see it happen, basically where I've got my anchored VWAP. I just realised I didn't have this screen on. So I've got an anchored VWAP on this 5-minute candle, and I've got this fibs which shows me the tops and bottoms, and basically I'm looking at the 50% mark and I'm looking for a potential bounce around that area. That's kind of why I put it in, and we have to break through this anchored VWAP, and you can see it's held it there. We haven't kind of come back to that area yet. It'd be interesting. Eventually the VWAP and the anchor VWAP and the main VWAP will join up and get close together anyway. But I do recommend keep a database of all the different trades and all your setups, and every time you see it, just take a screenshot. I use Screenpresso, and just get back into that. I know you didn't see it last time. I use Screenpresso. I keep all my screenshots, and I've got a big folder I need to go through and start adding them to my trade database. Anyway, so let's look at levels for today. All my previous levels are gone, apart from the ones I've just put in. Let's go back to the hourly. So this is an updated one I've just redone about 10 minutes ago. So I'm watching for a pullback into this area here, and I think that's not too far off that 50. Well, it's a bit below the 50% fibs. So it's 51.52 for a bounce. I'll talk about the break and retest in a minute. I'm not too sure about that. I'm also looking at when we came to this area, we had an area of confluence, bottom of that pivot, and obviously we kind of held it there before we broke down. It's an area of confluence there, and it's the 50 moving average as well. We haven't quite got down to that. So if we get back down to 51.33, and remember I'm using the March levels, the March contract levels, so it'll be 52 something on the June ones. So that's where I'm looking for a bounce. But basically the pivot off of 2 days ago high, what was that, Wednesday's high. Looking for a bounce on Wednesday's high. I'm looking for a bounce around Monday's high. Just in case your chart looks different, I'll read it out like that. I'm also looking for a bounce if we get back down towards this trend line area, and that's basically, let's find it, it's the pre-market lows from Thursday. No, from Wednesday I meant. No, Thursday. So pre-market lows from Thursday. 50.88. They're the areas I'm watching, and let's just go into the daily quickly so you can see where the trend line is. So I've just redrew the trend line today, connected up that bottom pivot with that pivot there, and let's just see what happens if we clone it. I'm sure it will just be running up this channel. We're cloning a trend line. Just there, look at that. How interesting is this? So I cloned it, it kind of exactly fits here, so we can use that as a guide when we get to the top. And look at that, the bottoms of this area, so you can see where this channel just flipped. So if I clone that again, almost exactly on, and if I extend it, and let's just bring it down. Funny how this all works out. So we've got this pivot here, help create this channel, and we are obviously running on the bottom, then we flip the channel below, and now we're under the bottom channel. So funny how the market works like that. Get rid of that one, not interested in that now. So watching this channel. So where can we go? We've broken all-time highs in the pre-market. We can probably aim for around 52.50, and that would be the top of this channel, assuming we haven't, if you look back a few days, a week, we haven't quite touched the top of this channel yet, and it kind of was in the bottom half of that channel yesterday, looking like it wanted to break down and break the structure. While we're still within this channel, I'm going to still have a slight bias towards the upside. We can watch for a potential rejection up here, top of that channel, 52.50 if we get there, or we can look for a bounce when we get back down to this channel here, so 52.50, and look at that, funny how it works out, 5100, nice round psychological number at that point there. So they're the two major areas. I've got a daily area drawn up as well, which is an area of confluence, tops of pivot, bottoms of these pivots as well, so we can watch for a bounce around that area. But if we do eventually break the structure, if it's in the next few days, then we want to see it break through, come back up. This is a key area, and watch it break down below 5,000. Obviously we've got the 50, we've not touched that for a while, and we've got the 200, and eventually the market will move back down towards these levels, either to the 50 or back down to the 200. But currently, and one thing to add, the bottom of this channel is also the 20 moving average as well, and it's been holding this 20 for some time, hence why I quite like it for a bounce. But that's the daily area. So now let's go back into the hourly. You can see that area there. So we've got this daily level we've been watching for potential bounce, or if we break this level then we've got a bit of a change of direction. Yeah, nothing changed from the, I felt like 5100 for potential bounce area. I may just raise. In fact, let's just get back in closer. I'm going to raise it up a little tiny bit. 5100. I kind of like that area. Probably, let's just do it properly. Just draw the demand zone. So we've got a, excuse me, we've got our demand zone. So that's the area we're watching for. And I'm going to draw my line back down there again because that's the area I'm really watching for a bounce. 50.91 bounce, but anywhere in that area, and it'll be bouncing off of this trend line. So we've got this trend line here. So we can watch for that. We've got point of control, which is the high, this is the volume profile indicator, and the area with the biggest amount of volume shows you the point of control. And I usually take into account the 3 biggest bars on that area, which happen to be there. By no coincidence, happens to be that area of demand as well. So that's why I quite like. We've got natural resistance below that area, or below this area, should I say. So this demand zone could actually be our area of resistance with this trend line touch as well. So that's kind of why I like this area the most. This is my higher probability bounce area for today if we get down there. So 5100 to 50.91 is a big area, so we need to watch the market and try and find an entry. And for that I'll be using order flow. This trend line here, or one of the areas for bounce. I'm looking for divergence. I'm also looking for big limit orders and buyers around those areas as well. And so go back to the order flow again. Just got a message saying my internet's slowed down, so hopefully you can still see the video. I'm going to carry on anyway. So that's what I'm looking for at the bottom of a trend, and or at the top where I'm looking for a bounce or a rejection. So these are my levels. Just quickly go through them again. I'm watching 5100, this area here, the demand area. I'm watching potential bounce off this 50 around 5133 to 5140 for a bounce, and that's tops of that pivot, bottoms of that pivot. And I'm looking for a potential higher risk bounce at yesterday or previous all-time highs area at 51.52. I I said I'd talk about break and retest. I could still potentially watch for the break over pre-market high, but it's, you know, we're quite extended. I don't quite like it up there. So potentially over yesterday's high, maybe a retest there. We kind of come through that now, so maybe invalid. But if we come back up, may look for a long. But the area I'm really watching for is this area here, and potentially this area here. They're my two big setups I'm watching for. I may even sit out of trading if we don't see anything else set up. That's it really. SPY is the same. I've got SPY levels in. Obviously there's no rollover on SPY, so that all stays the same. So we've got the bounce around this area, 514 for a bounce, which is the tops of that pivot. Don't like the fact that the 8:30 candle kind of went straight through it, so I would consider that's a higher risk bounce now. But this is just data, algos trading. Otherwise, 512 for a bounce off of that pivot and bottoms of these candles, or we can watch for a bounce around. This is not my greatest idea, but 509 and then 507. These are the two areas to watch for bounces. Nasdaq, again, the values may change because of the rollover, so I'll just give you the pivots I'm watching. Did we make a new all-time high? I don't think we made an equal all-time high, so this has got a higher probability of breaking and retesting that area. If we see buying come in, we've got our point of control around this area as well. So break and retest of today's pre-market high, long, maybe let it pull back to yesterday's high. We've got two or three areas there we could watch. And if we want to catch a bounce, I do quite like yesterday's low area for a bounce, and the reason for that is it's the top of that candle, tops of these candles. We had a big reaction last time there, big reaction there, big reaction when we got down to that error and we pushed back up, and you can see tops of candles over here as well. So on this chart, again, don't forget the rollover, and my chart may be different to yours, 18,425, or it's the bounce of yesterday's low, double bottom off of there, basically looking to come down to there. Qs, same setup. We made a new all-time high on Qs this morning when Nasdaq didn't. So still watching the break. Do you know what? It's kind of come down below it now. If we push back up and make a new all-time high and it pulls back, watching yesterday's high for a bounce. Otherwise, again, watching a double bottom at yesterday's low. And then if we get down to, we've got this area of supply down at 438. So watching 441, that's been on, that level's been there for a few days. Funny how yesterday's low came right into that level we talked about based on that pivot. 441.98, 442 for a bounce. So hopefully somebody took that yesterday. You know, the levels were on this video. And been a great bounce. SPX. Kind of watching this area, yesterday's low, 51.30, potential bounce area. 5100, round about here for another bounce, but we've got 5,000, 5100 below, 5,000 way below. So kind of yesterday's low, or previous day's low, previous day's high areas for bounces. And then, again, I'm not too keen on a break and retest. We're probably going to open up here somewhere anyway, so I'm not only watching for bounces. And if we do get down to 5100, that's been this instrumental area over the last few days. We've kind of held it there. We kind of rejected it up here, rejected it here. We've got lots of volume around just below that area as well. Point of control goes through there as well. So kind of watching that 5100 to 5090 for a bounce. And if it does bounce, then I'll be keeping an eye on ES for a entry. Gold is just on its big run up. We need it to pull back down really to these areas. Let's see, and that's a daily one. Put it to hourly. Well, it could be a daily. So that previous pivot, maybe, what happened yesterday? We said if it comes back down and retests this area, got this area of confluence, put that in as well, round about there. I need to work something out because it seems to be when I put levels in, they don't remain on there, and they're kind of not there when I come back to it the next day. So I seem to be putting the same levels in over and over. Kind of that area for a bounce, and I'm just looking at tops and bottoms of candles. Just happens to be the 20 moving average as well, so it comes back down to the 20. We can watch it for a bounce. Apart from that, is it rejectable? Maybe. We kind of hit that double top there. You could call it a treble top if you take the pivot in. So it's in a rejectable area, but it's too strong to reject, I think, unless you're scalping it. Oil, still doing what it does. Got this trend line. It's below the 200 moving average right now, so we need it to either hold below and look for a short if it breaks that trend line, or we can look for a pre-market high. Look at that, it's a long way away. You can't even look for, it's a long way for the break and retest, but you could watch for a break and retest of pre-market high with potential resistance just above here, but no real decent plays on oil. And we've got a bounce down here at 77.50, big volume, area volume, tops of candles, bottoms of candles, roughly in that area, bottoms and bottoms. And we bounced from there yesterday, so there's an area on watch. So keep an eye on that area. Let's just mark it up. That's a potential bounce area, or if we break down through it, it's a break and retest, and if that happens, we could see this starting to curve around. But keep an eye on the 50 first. The 50 will curve around first, followed by the 200. Okay, RTY, which is the Russell 2000. You can see that decent bounce area here. 2092 for a bounce, that area, 2093. And then we've got that area confluence around about here. And that is tops of pivots, tops of pivots, tops of pivots. And we kind of bounced from there already. Today came close to it, and it's the 50 moving average as well, so if we get down to there we can watch for a bounce. YM or the Dow Jones. Not a big fan of this chart. I can't, it's hard to find an area of confluence as well. It's going to be a big zone. So I've got pre-market high for a break and retest long. Remember, we're under the 200 moving average now on this hourly chart. So we need if we want us to see a decent move up, we've got to break above the pre-market high and potentially break past the 200 and also get past yesterday's high. So we've got a few areas there. To me, that looks like overhead resistance, and potentially it's a rejection area. You know, we've got a lot of volume in this area as well. You can see the volume. So just draw my box around that volume again. I like to take the 3 highest ones near to it. Okay, there's 4 there. So this area, this kind of area is an area it needs to break above. It's trying to. It's difficult. Either we break down, we can look for shorts. If it stays above that area, we can look for longs. But we're right in that area, so there's no trade until we get above any of them. And that's it. Look, let's quickly look at Bitcoin. See how that's doing. It's hovering back around the all-time highs area. But with decline in volume, which is interesting to see. Usually you see that signify on a pullback. There's losing interest from buyers, and then we could see it drop. The next volume spike might be the big red bar down. But you know, it's Bitcoin, and it's doing what Bitcoin does at the moment. But we are quite far away from the 200, the 50 and the 20, so it does need to get back down to those points at some point. It's been kind of flowing, it's been holding the 20 for the majority of the time, so suggest it should get that down to that area. But the 50 it's held as well since October, kind of broke through it there, and obviously the 200 has been held for a long time. Let's see what happens today. Okay, I didn't look at the economic calendar, but we saw the big news come in today at 8:30. We haven't got nothing else. We've got unemployment rate and non-farms payroll at 8:30, and there's nothing of major importance today at all. Okay, so just quickly go through the levels on MES again. Market opens in a few minutes. Just watching kind of like the break and retest of this area now. We've kind of pulled down. I really want to come back down a little bit more. Probably pre-market high, break and retest long. Bear in mind we don't know what's above, so it's in no man's land. And I kind of like the bounce off of this area down here. So pre-market low, yesterday's low, and today's body of those candles 51.52. It's a big wide area to 51.40, so we need to find something in that area. And then if we get down into this area of demand, I quite like it bouncing off this trend line. We've got the point of control down there, all the volumes down here as well, so natural support. And we've got a level I've drawn up in that area. 50.91 is an area I quite like, but we've got 5100. That's been a significant area recently. And that's it really. Hopefully the video helps, and trade safely.